Hi, and welcome to episode 20 of The Party Line. This podcast is recorded on Indigenous land, and we stand in solidarity with our Indigenous brothers and sisters in their struggle against racism and capitalism.
Oh, my darling, oh, my darling, oh, my darling party line. Oh, I never will forsake thee, for I love this life of mine.
Hi, it's Annika.
Omar.
Geordie.
You might hear some sniffles in the episode this week because Omar's going through trans-seasonal sinus.
The weather's changed. I'm sure there are listeners out there who know exactly what I'm talking about.
He came in and he was like, ugh.
It's like a 27-degree turnaround in 2 days.
Yeah.
Like, my
Yeah, it
nose
is
just
pretty
can't handle
nuts.
I had a meeting this morning. I'm helping to organise the Marxism conference, which is happening over the Easter weekend in Melbourne. So I was busy this morning. So you guys went out on a shopping trip, I hear?
Shopping.
Certainly did.
Boys
Boys
morning.
trip.
Yeah. I'm really pro shopping. I do it all the time. We only got like one item
And
and
it was ill-fitted
Yeah, it's
to
the wrong
room.
size.
it's a fugly rug.
Yeah.
Fugly.
Probably like one of the ugliest rugs I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It's kind of like grandmother's couch patterned,
Faded.
Yeah, but
faded.
it's worse though.
Yeah.
It's like the colours, at least the colours on your grandma's couch kind of make sense.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that happened, or a few things that happened while we were shopping is walking around with Geordie is a real experience
Yeah.
because
You get stopped.
you get stopped and it's like, oh man, I'm so proud and thankful for what you do, all your service to the community. Insists on a handshake. Another woman's like, oh, I listen to you all the time. She actually said,
It's really nice.
shout out. She was really nice. She was like,
Yeah.
I actually sometimes listen to you till like, watch you like till 3 a.m. in the morning. What's your website? Bad Rentals.
The shit rentals
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
So, yeah, to which Geordie replied, you can get a prescription for that, which was very mean.
A prescription.
Yeah. Like,
Well,
Oh,
So
like
this was
as in like
the
sleeping
second
pills.
The first time
That's
she was
sad.
like, I watch all of your stuff, and I was like,
it's just mean.
my condolences.
Yeah, it's just mean. Anyway, so I
She
felt
was so lovely.
she was really nice. I felt some reflected glory.
Yeah, you do get that.
I was like his manager. I'm like, yeah, he's got a new pod. He's got a new pod, The Party Line.
It was like, I said to Omar, it's like walking around when I was a kid being embarrassed by my dad.
yeah.
Because he was
But
like,
are you the dad? Or?
No, I'm the
no,
dad.
Omar's definitely the dad.
Oh, okay.
He's like, have you heard his podcast?
Well, I am a
But
dad,
it's
you know.
also Omar's podcast
Yeah,
as well. Did you
exactly.
talk about yourself?
No,
earlier?
of course not.
Yeah.
I'm fucking nobody.
Yeah, I've had that experience for the last year because Geordie and I first met when Geordie was running for Senate for Victorian Socialists and I was on the Purple Pingers campaign committee.
Indeed.
And so we spent a lot of time driving around Victoria and everywhere you go, there's someone's like, oh, Mr. Pingers.
It's so
It's really
sweet.
nice.
Mr. Pingers.
Mr. Pingers.
That's very formal and
Yeah.
polite, isn't it? Yeah.
That's my father, actually.
But talking about going shopping, we often do like a thing about you should subscribe to the Patreon at the end of the episode. But our episodes are so long, I wonder how many people actually make it to the bit where we're saying goodbye.
I certainly don't.
I sent my mum the last episode that we did, which was 45 minutes long, and she said, 45 minutes, great.
She's your mum. She's meant to love you. Like, oh, it's so good to hear your voice.
Yeah. I mean, I think she does like the podcast. She listened to a bunch of the episodes in a row because she had to catch up. So maybe listening to like 3 or 4
Yeah,
episodes in a row is not advised.
But guys, listen to that episode. It's with Kate Wilde, a very excellent journalist, award-winning, done awesome. She spent years in the Northern Territory. She's covered the Kumanjai Walker case in extraordinary detail. It's a really good listen.
It's good. Geordie and I were talking about it though, and we think that it is definitive proof that people want bullshit.
Oh, yeah. No, that's definitely, like, people were coming up to me at the rally on Saturday, Sunday. I can't
Monday.
remember. Monday. And yeah, they were like, I'm pro bullshit. I'm actually pro even more bullshit. And this episode had zero bullshit.
It was like straight down the line.
Yeah. It's just, straight up and down, just quite serious. And it's not performed.
Apparently people aren't into that.
They're not into
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
But
so-
it's a good book and an important issue. So people should give it a listen. But I raised the Patreon because in that interview as well, our editor, special guest editor, Orly, he experimented with some camera cuts. And they were not the best angle because it's like us just like staring at Jordan's computer. So there's a few chins going on.
It was like being in the nightmare, and we were the like
The
towering.
paralysis team.
Yeah.
So we're thinking maybe we could try and like upgrade the podcast, but to do that, we need to buy a few more cameras.
Yeah.
And pay for a bloody plug-in for Adobe Premiere.
Yeah.
Who pays for anything on the internet? But apparently, if it's AI, you got to pay.
except it's not.
It's not AI. It's like it's a plug-in.
Yeah.
But it
Well,
has.
fuck them. Why are they charging us then?
It's just they can.
Yeah.
And so Geordie and Omar spent all of our money on an ill-fitting carpet. So
It was a big investment. It's like cashmere. Yeah.
So anyways, if you would like to subscribe to the Patreon, please do. The link is in the show notes on whatever platform you're listening to. So give it a go. Give us some money, please.
Maybe we should offer a thing where if you subscribe to the top tier, you get a signed photo of Geordie.
Absolutely
That's horrible.
Look, I mean, the people want it.
I don't know.
I
if
don't
the
think
people want
anyone
that.
I think we
wants
should
that.
respect the public.
Okay. So yeah, do that. And the other thing we wanted to request from the listeners, you guys, is please share the podcast with your friends and fam. The reason why we've put this podcast together is because we think there is a lack of good left-wing analysis of especially Australian political events. And so we wanted to provide a sort of interesting and entertaining, hopefully, and educative, hopefully, podcast. So share it with your friends and family and help us grow the socialist left in the country.
And give us a rating.
Yes.
I saw we
yeah,
have
definitely.
200 5-star ratings on Spotify. That's not bad, but we definitely get a lot more listens than that. So if you are listening and you haven't yet rated us, please do.
Yeah. Also, we spoke to someone who's good at YouTube, and apparently the like and subscribe thing is important, and we have to start doing that. And
What's important?
saying
like
like, please like and subscribe, and I'm just like, I shotgun not
What
doing that.
YouTube like demands that we do it.
Yeah, apparently it like really helps if you say like and subscribe, and then
Like and subscribe, like and subscribe, like and subscribe,
Okay,
like and
Omar will do
subscribe, like
that.
and
There's
subscribe.
like what do they do? Like you can like and subscribe at the button down below. That's what they do, the American YouTubers.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this.
Let's not put on American accent.
Riding out the party line.
Okay, well, this episode, we don't want to make it too long, but there's a lot to talk about.
Yeah,
That's
there's
a
so
banger.
much. Yeah.
So we're going to have Oscar Martin come on the pod again. We loved him so much last
Popular
week.
demand.
And Oscar's going to be talking, and we will all be talking a bit about Invasion Day and the fascist stuff that happened on that day as well. There's a lot of news headlines to go through.
Certainly. What's been happening?
We've got to attack some parties, some people, because
Certainly.
we like doing that on the pod. And then
No love.
there's
here.
been an
all hate.
but we do love the people of Minnesota.
Definitely.
And we're going to be talking about
Some of them.
the Minnesota uprising that's taken place and the just incredible movement
Yeah.
against ICE. So that's what we're going to be talking about on the pod today. Hopefully the Spotify chapters reflect that.
Yeah.
Sometimes they say funny stuff.
I don't know how they work.
No.
AI.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. Who knows?
So I was trying to, before we pressed record, I was trying to remember what like a news broadcast noise sounds like, but I can't remember it. So why don't we just jump into the headlines?
Wow, that's a great intro.
Anyways, this week in the news, who wants to lead this one?
Well, there was this one that Omar shared. Netanyahu's government hosts anti-Semitism conference with European far right.
Yeah, they do this one every year. It's on an anniversary of Auschwitz.
Mhm.
And it's like it used to be just like a
Wait, the liberation of Auschwitz? Or
one.
which-
I'm not going to say because I can't remember, but
Okay.
it's related to Auschwitz, and it was like an annual event, and it used to be different to what it is now, which is like a far right festival.
Mm.
It's sort of like CPAC, but in Israel.
Mm.
And so the article just sort of documents all the fascists, like Geert Wilders, it's just like
Mm.
all the far right from around the world.
Mm.
Someone from Marine Le Pen's party
Yeah.
in
Jeez.
France. And
Did
they're
it-
just talking about how like Muslims are the biggest threat to world
Mm.
peace. And
And Morrison was there.
yeah, Scott Morrison, which is really funny.
Yeah.
I reckon like former Australian prime ministers from the Liberal Party,
Mm,
when they go global, they're always on the fascist side of things. Like
totally.
they don't go with like the centre right. Like Tony Abbott
Yeah.
is like one of the key friends of like the Reform UK people, and
Mm,
It just seems to be a trend. Anyway, Morrison was there giving a speech about the threat of the cultural left, which seems awfully like cultural Marxism, which was definitely like a far right socialist kind of talking point. Anyway, so last year all these centre people boycotted the conference because of all the fascists, including a lot of European Jews and stuff. Whereas the article makes the point this year that everyone was fine with that.
Yeah.
So that's nice to see the normalization of fascism.
And yeah, they're definitely very good at fighting anti-Semitism. Not. Next headline is Trump threatens Iran with massive armada.
Yeah. Have you guys seen this?
Yeah, you sent it in the chat. It's an interesting direction after, originally threatening that, help is on its way and then like backing down after like Saudi Arabia and Egypt and I can't remember the other country told him to shut up.
Qatar, yeah. Yeah,
Qatar, that's it. And then now this again.
Yeah, so they're sending like aircraft carriers, heaps of planes, just all to the oceans and seas just around Iran, Persian Gulf. And basically it's just pure intimidation. I mean, Iran's not Venezuela. They can't just sort of kidnap the leader and blackmail them. We got a story on that too. But so I don't know exactly where they're going with it, but it's definitely just like pressure, imperial aggression. Like we're here, we can do whatever the fuck we want.
I was listening to the Daily podcast. Omar said, "Why are you still listening to that imperial trash?" But it was about sanctioned Iranian oil that was being moved around the globe through ghost fleets, and a bunch of them were off the coast of Venezuela. And the New York Times have been tracking these ghost fleets of sanctioned oil, and they sent the information about where these ships were to the American Navy.
So nice of them.
It's like, why are you doing that?
Yeah, media, supposedly.
Yeah, what the fuck?
Like, it's one thing to run a story and track these things, but it's like collaborating with the world's like most deadly terrorist force, the US Army.
It's the quid pro quo for being added to that signal chat or whatever about the war plans. But seriously, it's fucking disgusting.
It's so gross.
Like Trump's obviously feels like he's on a winner with this global stuff. He's losing at home. He's in crisis.
Yeah. So they got to keep pushing out.
Yeah, wars. Whenever there's a problem domestically, start a new war. That's the American motto.
Yeah, and like I think last time we spoke about Iran, everyone was like, "Oh, why would you support U.S. imperialism instead?" It's like, no, we fucking
don't.
Oppose this too.
That's right. And I read a really interesting article actually by an Iranian leftist talking about how this stuff from the West and Israel, they say they're like supporting the movement, but actually it makes it really hard for the Iranian people because it gives the regime an excuse.
Totally.
And they can say, look, Trump said that he's behind this movement.
Yeah.
So
and that's what they've done.
Exactly. And they've just killed thousands and thousands of people. So it's a real tragedy. You can't put a plus where the imperialists put a minus. You have to come up with an independent position. And just because the Americans say they supported the movement, they didn't. And they don't.
Well, next, on the theme of American imperialism, Rubio says Venezuela will submit its budgets to the US for approval.
Every month.
Oh, my God.
It's crazy.
They're going to send a document every month.
They're just making Venezuela
a vassal state.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so just terrible.
And it was just reported, again, this is New York Times, like just matter of fact.
Yeah.
This is totally reasonable.
Just the budget being sent.
Seems normal.
But we have someone to fight against it. We have someone who's going to like push against America, the evil America.
Who's that?
The Canadian Prime Minister.
Mark Carney.
So he's going to bring together, it's time for the middle powers to come together and fight against the big bully major powers.
Best speech ever, according to the Financial Times at Davos.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure is a really high bar.
Yeah.
The World Economic Forum.
So the headline that you put in is a rupture, not a transition, Carney's new order.
Yeah, this was a really big story in the financial press because this guy, Mark Carney, who's the sort of liberal centrist who defeated the conservative right in the last elections in Canada, he's a former British central banker.
Incredible.
And I don't quite understand how
do
British
you get to be
banker,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's Britain. I'm really quite sure. He ended up the Prime Minister of Canada. Or president, whatever the fuck they have in Canada. And he gave this speech where he's like, basically the same as the Stephen Miller speech the other week, like we live in an era of great power rivalry.
Yeah.
Power determines everything, and us little powers, we get squashed on. So we got to band together
Yeah.
and fight against imperial hegemony or whatever.
By
But it's
doing the same thing.
You're fucking Canada. You're not some victim of imperialism.
Yeah,
You're part of
totally.
the imperial
Totally.
problem. Like,
Yeah.
So, and then this was received really positively by like the liberal centrist.
They were
world.
like, we finally got someone who's going to represent us.
yeah.
Like, it's the centre's coming back, baby.
Exactly.
I'm sorry, mate. It's just not.
But also, like, I mean, from our perspective, like, what's good about the centre?
Totally,
like
yeah.
Macron,
Yeah.
Starmer,
Yeah.
all these scum, like the guy Merz in Germany, who's on the hard right of his own party. So, you know, this is just like, the middle players should band together and fight America and China. Like, there's nothing good about this at all.
Yeah.
And also, when Mark Carney won, the only reason he won is that he actually destroyed all the parties to his left, like
Ate up the
NDP and I think the Greens as well. Their vote collapsed. So it wasn't actually like this liberal centrist defeated the right. by,
Totally,
like,
yeah. Taking
winning
away
votes.
from the right.
He actually
yeah.
just destroyed the left.
Yeah.
And the left got sucked into him, and now we're meant to celebrate this rubbish.
Well, Geordie, can you take us to our favourite middle power, Australia? That was a joke. We hate it.
I thought you were going to say that because the next headline is Coles. It's about Coles, and I thought you were saying Coles was our favourite middle power.
It basically is at
I
this
mean,
point.
yeah.
Yeah.
Coles my group. They run Australia.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. So back to Australia. Coles has hired a supermarket PR guru while they're under investigation for
Price gouging.
yeah. That's great. That's a great sign.
And the guy's the former editor at The Australian.
It's yeah. I mean,
Clive Matheson, I think his name is. So he's like a News Corp stalwart scumbag. But I mean, I reckon it's good because, you know,
Is it?
because
I want to see where it goes with this.
in The Australian, he pretended to tell the truth when he was the editor, right? It's like, I'm an editor of a newspaper.
Oh yeah, true.
Pure
Yeah.
propaganda. At least
Yeah.
now,
Oh,
he's doing
just
a job.
which is
Totally.
propaganda.
Propaganda.
Yeah.
Telling
Like,
us Coles is good. The price is actually really legitimate.
yeah, you can't
know.
pretend it's news or anything.
Yeah,
it's
it's
like we
more
know
honest now.
exactly what you're doing.
This is where people like that belong in marketing.
Okay, so
Yeah.
now we have an Eat the Rich headline.
Yeah, which is a Melbourne school. Doesn't say which one in the headline.
Penley, it's Penley Grammar.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just curious that they
Yeah.
didn't say which one in the headline. Pays $7.1 million to buy the house next door.
Yeah, so it's not Thomastown High.
Ugh.
It's not
Yeah.
Bloody High. That's for sure.
Where is
No.
Penley Grammar?
It's Essendon somewhere.
Yeah.
Oh, yep.
And this is at the same time as Albo is making posts on social media being like, we're fully funding public schools and whatever, and the Victorian Labor government has cut $2.4 billion from public schools at the same time because they're like, oh, the federal government's going to increase their funding. We might as well just cut it then.
Yeah, Alan's on a real cutting spree.
Totally.
And the agreement they've done with the federal government actually locks the Victorian schools to be the lowest funded schools in Australia for the next 3-4 years.
Yeah, it's like it is just absolutely fucked.
Yeah. Well, speaking of schools,
Yeah.
our next headline.
Yeah, so the AU in Victoria, which is the union for public schools,
My union.
damn right, is it's just lodged so on the first day back of school, which is really exciting. They lodged a protected action ballot, which is we want to take protected industrial action, and the last strike in Victoria for the AU was I think in 2013. So it's like
When I was at school.
yeah, like well over a decade.
What was that face, Omar?
You're very youthful. I graduated in 2003.
And I think it's important to note that like this ballot isn't necessarily a strike. They're not proposing a strike or anything. It's just like we want to take industrial action.
Well, that's the rules. You have to ask permission of your members before you can take any action. And that was all part of anti-union laws introduced by, I think, Howard.
Yeah.
And so it basically introduced like months-long process. So you have to apply, you have to ask permission to poll your own members
You have to
about
be-
whether they want to strike.
Exactly. You have to first be in a bargaining period.
Yeah.
Then you have to apply to the Fair Work Commission to like get
Talk
a vibe
to your own
check.
members. Can we talk to our own members?
Yeah, please.
We had a unionist who from the Philippines come to Marxism conference a couple of years ago, and he was doing. We take the international guests for a bit of a walking tour around Melbourne to talk about the radical history of Melbourne, and over the course of that discussion, talking about the way that the industrial landscape has changed and what are the laws that govern, and when can you go on strike and when can you not. This guy lived under the Duterte regime.
Yeah.
You know, this like authoritarian, violent killer, like killer regime or whatever. And he was like, oh, it's easier for us to go on strike than it is for you guys to go on strike.
Yeah, there's
like crazy.
Actual dictatorships where it's easier to go on strike.
Yeah, we have one of the worst laws on the planet.
Yeah.
So they're asking whether the members want to go on strike.
Well, whether they want to take protected action.
They usually do a list of things like
they have to be in their application they have to be specific about like what the proposal is and
so
whatever.
Everything from like 5 minutes longer for your lunch break to
and like work bans and things.
Just an indefinite strike, which I doubt they'll do.
So they've lodged the request, and I think so. Labor have opposed it. So Labor, the Victorian Labor government, who is the employer,
the party of the working class.
Yeah.
Totally, they're like these people can't strike. There's like some of the lowest paid workers in education in the whole country. I'm pretty sure they are the lowest, and Labor's like, no, you will stay that way. In fact, we'll make it worse. Our offer is going to get you. It make you worse off when you take into account inflation.
Yeah, it's 3%. And inflation yesterday came out at 3.8.
Yeah. So you're going to get a pay cut. Totally. So yeah, I think like the response should be that obviously you vote yes to this ballot if it's successful.
Yeah.
And also you talk to your workmates in your schools about the fact that you want to go on strike, not just do, little work bans and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And you get them to say the same thing and convince their workmates.
And if you're a teacher listening to this podcast, I think that means that you're a socialist who is a teacher.
Probably.
If you're listening to the podcast.
Possibly in a school.
And you're possibly, so there's actually a group that's designed for you. It's called Socialists in Schools. Yeah, so people should join Socialists in Schools.
Totally. Yeah, join. There's an Instagram page that you can follow. You can come along to the Socialist Workers Caucus meetings, which are once a month. And get involved, like get organised as a socialist in your union, in your workplace. And join VS, I guess.
And an EBA periods are really important. Like there's been a lot of reports in the chat, like there's a lot of interest among school teachers about striking. Most of the workers haven't done it because they're young, right? So it's germinating.
Probably even more youthful than me.
Yeah, even. I know, incredible. So there's been lots of really good conversations happening at work, and we want to keep that up.
Well, our next headline is Coalition Split.
It's tragedy.
Nationals Senators Mackenzie and Cadell face job losses. But the coalition, they split again. I thought they did that ages ago.
They're just always splitting.
Yeah.
It's like a toxic relationship.
They just can't get along. They're always dividing. Yeah. But the article points out like that the Nationals would almost win no Senate seats anywhere, basically, because their actual numbers
are like 2%.
Like depend on the state. It's like 4 or 5% tops sort of thing. So they're really overrepresented in Parliament.
Yeah.
The coalition is what makes that possible. With the Liberals. So, they could be absolutely wiped out.
It's one of the interesting effects of the politicization of the Bondi massacre. The fact that the right came out to campaign around it so much. They called Parliament back, like they demanded Parliament be called back early. There needs to be laws that are passed. They created all of this sort of fanfare around this because they thought it was going to be a really good opportunity for them to take the wind out of the sails for Labor and to make sort of steps forward. But they're actually just really bad tacticians. And what it has meant is that, there were all of these regressive laws passed to demonize the Palestine movement, but this hasn't impacted Labor in this massively negative way. And actually it's led to the split of the coalition and potentially the demise of Susan Ley. So it's like, wow, you guys didn't read
done.
Like, who's that Chinese warlord?
Sun Tzu.
Yeah, they didn't read him. They don't know how to do like game plan and all the rest of it. Like,
I mean, it's interesting because in some ways, like from our perspective, Labor moving to the right and doing all this shit has a big impact on the left and on society. But from a purely electoral political point of view, it's a massive own goal. So it's an interesting one. And like, we will of course mourn the National Party on this show if and when they lose some seats.
Speaking,
will we?
Speaking of game theory. That's what I was looking for, not game plans. Game
Sure.
theory. In Canberra,
Where all good things happen.
beacon of humanity and all the rest. The Greens there have been in talks with the Liberals for a power sharing agreement.
Yeah. So the chief minister role is on the table apparently. Obviously, so it's a Labor government. The Greens have been in a power sharing kind of arrangement.
Coalition. It's a
coalition. Yeah. With the Labor government for a number of years, a number of elections in over the years in the ACT, and this time they're not. So the ACT Labor government formed a government in its own right. They didn't need some Greens politicians to also agree with supply and whatever the fuck, however it works. And so Labor, as it does, is doing bad things, and they're not happy with the bad things that Labor is doing. So they're like, we'll get a more left-wing government if we form government with the ACT Liberals. And I don't know if you know anything about the ACT Liberals, but they're not particularly left-wing. There's literal transphobes. They've opposed the expansion of abortion rights. They opposed the fucking Voice, and they're just objectively right wing.
Liberal Party.
Yeah. I don't think we need to do a rundown.
Expose.
Exactly. So the leader of the Greens in the ACT is in talks with these people to be like, oh, maybe we can all form a government together.
Yeah.
That's a really good idea. Because we don't think Labor is doing what we want it to do. So
It's terrible.
yeah, we'll do, I guess, half of what we want to do and half of what the Liberals want to do.
Somehow I don't think the Liberals will be voting for anything that good that the Greens want to do.
Totally. And
so it would just be taking power for the sake of it.
Exactly. And it's important to note, they already do deals that oppose Labor proposals at the moment. They can do that without forming governments and without sharing power with these people. That's
You also don't need to do a deal. You can just say this legislation is bad. We're going to vote against it, and the Liberals vote against it for whatever fucking reason.
Totally. Yeah,
that's totally fine. Obviously in Parliament,
that's how
we would
it
vote
works.
against most things the Labor Party puts through.
Yeah.
But to do a coalition, they've actually done this before, though. I don't know if our listeners are aware. They did it in Tasmania.
They did it in Tasmania.
Many, many moons ago. A coalition government with Liberals and the Greens.
I was just trying to find the image. I'm okay, don't quote me on this, but I'm fairly sure they had a leaflet that they handed out, which was the Greens, and it was a blue coloured Greens triangle, and it said the original Liberals.
Yeah, they did.
They did do that.
Yeah. Okay, quote me on that.
But also it shows, firstly, the reason that they're doing this, they're not in a power sharing arrangement with the Labor Party at the moment, is because they have been for so long, and they've lost votes because of it, because it's people are asking, what the fuck do the Greens even do when they're literally in government? And now they want to do it again. They think that is the answer. And I feel like that just shows you what's symptomatically wrong with these people. But also people. So when we posted about it, we made a post, the Canberra Socialists made a post about effectively just reporting on what the Canberra Times reported, which was they're in these talks to share power in the ACT. There were so many Greens people in the comments defending it, saying oh no, this is actually a really good thing. And then some people saying oh well, he's just the leader of the Greens, it's not the party or whatever who's having these talks. It's
you can't say the leader of the party represents the party.
No, that's ridiculous.
That's such a sectarian thing to say.
And then so people. So firstly, a bunch of people defending it, a bunch of people not defending it, but still defending it somehow by saying that. And then people, instead of being oh yeah, that's bad because it's objectively bad, people were I can't believe the socialists have done this. People why?
So it's our fault.
Yeah, they were the socialists are acting like mainstream media and doing attack ads on the Greens and stuff like that. And it's bro, this is the fucking Greens doing something stupid. The response shouldn't be how do I make this the socialists' fault? It's really, and some people were commenting usually I preference the socialists quite highly, but after this I'm going to preference them lower.
But how would they be? We haven't run in Canberra.
Firstly, we haven't.
Put Labor above us just to punish us for calling out the Liberals.
Yeah, for something that you're doing.
You're getting really into the weeds on the comments.
Totally,
It's something that I generally don't recommend people do. But I mean, like, VS has recruited, not just VS, sorry, the Socialist Party nationally has recruited quite a lot of ex-Greens people, including quite, like, serious and senior people. And it's exactly this kind of stuff, I think, that pisses people off. Because a lot of people join the Greens or vote for the Greens thinking they're voting for a left alternative, something that's very different, anti-system, whatever. And then the Greens' commitment to power, capitalism, bureaucracy, technocratic liberalism just means they do this shit time and time again. I mean, they did it under Gillard Rudd, you know, like they basically formed a coalition with Labor then for one of the oscillations. And their only requirement was that they get more access to the parliamentary budget office for like reviewing policy costings and stuff. Like they didn't say, oh, you should like let
and a question in question time.
Yeah, like not left the refugees off Manus Island or Nauru, you know, whatever. So this is their method.
Yeah, and it's shit, and it's like. One of the other ones was like, oh yeah, they should have, like the Liberals should have gone into a power sharing arrangement with the Socialists and whatever. It's like, no, that's not what we're arguing. We would literally never do that with the Greens, with the fucking Labor Party, with the Liberals. That's just not how that would work.
Yeah. Our last headline is a good one. Palestine Action Group plans National Day of Protest as Herzog visit confirmed.
This is fucking... It's on. We've been talking about this for a couple of weeks.
It's happening.
Albo disgustingly invited Herzog to Australia.
Israel's president.
And this guy is someone who has been named as complicit and culpable for war crimes and genocide for what's taking place in Gaza. And Albanese was like, oh, would you like to come to Australia?
Yeah. Pop over.
Just come say hi. And we got dates for it. And then from the Israeli Times, and then it was like they were the wrong dates. But were they actually the right dates in the end?
They were off by like one day.
By one day.
But then the funny thing is that the Israeli presidential office put out a statement explaining when he was coming, and the Australian media just got it all wrong. So they said he was leaving Israel on the 8th. The Aussie media is like, oh, he's arriving on the 8th. It's like, you obviously haven't been to that area because it takes a long time. And you're going forward in time. So anyway, he's probably going to be arriving on the 9th.
Yeah.
And so there's going to be a national day of action.
On the 9th.
We are hitting the streets. Like the goal is to shut down every fucking city in this country, 5:30 or 5 o'clock, something like that in every city. Check the socials.
Yeah.
We want to block the streets. We want to make it known. In Melbourne, we're doing it at Flinders Street. So,
yes,
you know, Flinders Street on a Monday night, peak hour.
We're going to cause chaos.
Yes, we are causing chaos.
We'll have the headline next, you know, the following week. It'll be like, Palestinian activists cause chaos in Melbourne CBD peak hour.
It'll be rabble.
Yeah, divisive.
So if you want to come be rabble with us, check Students for Palestine Oz. They'll have a roundup of when all of the protests will be on the 9th.
But it's a really important one.
Get there and bring everybody. Like, as Omar said, we want to shut the city down so that they think twice before inviting a committer of genocide into our country.
Riding out the party line.
Well, it was Invasion Day on Monday. There was a really massive demo in Melbourne, Naarm. The police said like 17,000 people at it, which seems like maybe it was a little bit bigger, but it was a really
quite big.
Massive sea of people.
Yeah. Easily the largest one as well.
Largest
rally?
Actually,
yeah.
No,
nah.
It peaked in like 2021 or something.
No, I mean out of all of the cities.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, Melbourne.
Oh, no, was Sydney bigger?
I can't remember, but I don't remember it being bigger.
I thought Sydney was about 10,000.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Melbourne was the biggest.
The photos of the Sydney one looked like it was massive.
Yeah, I think it was quite massive. And I think people were motivated, especially due to all the repression and the potentiality of like this rally not maybe going ahead.
Totally, yeah.
So,
actually, we forgot to, Oscar's just started talking, but...
Hello.
I said it was weird. I didn't listen.
No, but Omar said, should we have Oscar walk in, which would have been weirder than him just appearing. But anyways, welcome back to the podcast, Oscar.
Thanks for having me on again.
Yeah, we really enjoyed the
You're
last
a hit.
time.
Yeah,
I've been getting messages by people saying I was charming.
Yes.
Handsome
Yes.
again.
There's no need to lie.
All right, moving on. He's getting a big head.
No.
All right, no one's allowed to message Oscar this
messages.
time.
Please, no more, please.
There's only room for one celeb on this pod, and that's Geordie.
Oh, I thought you were going to say it was you. But I thought it was really good that there was such a big demonstration in Melbourne. And then also the fact that it was so much bigger than the March for Australia demo that took place at the same time at Flinders Street.
Yeah, definitely. Because there was a sort of real drumming up about this rally. Like, will it be big? The writers trying to come back and reclaim their day, reclaim their flag. And to have them only get about, was it 2,000 at most, compared to 17,000 strong left-wing anti-racist activists get on the streets and chant always was, always will be. I think a really good win in the sense of pushing back them at least.
Yeah, I was looking after my baby on the day, and so I just had to walk around for a bit, and so I walked down with him and visited the crowd.
Oh, no.
And I grabbed the One Nation leaflet and just like put it on my pram as like cover. You have to. I'm a brown guy with a beard. Like I didn't feel comfortable. So anyway, I was walking the pram through their rally, and it was really notable. It was like
Can't believe you exposed your child
quite
to that.
well to do. You know, like it wasn't. It wasn't that rough. It was like people dressed quite nicely, very male, but not exclusively. But it wasn't like kind of down and out kind of people for the most part.
Well, it was kind of a different rally to the first March for Australia one. That one was very much built by...
It was older.
Yeah.
The first one.
Built by a Nazi Twitter sort of scene. Obviously, Ozpil and Beck Freedom and all of that, and that, you know, the NSN as they exist in whatever form at the moment were there, helped build it and promote it. But the thing that made this one so much different was the really active role of One Nation in building it, promoting it and speaking at it. I think they had 2 or 3 One Nation speakers at it. And like Omar says, like all of this merch, they had a freaky like cardboard cutout thing of
put the
Paul.
photo on the,
So weird.
Yeah, but also like it's still important to note that those same like NSN members were still here, still, you know, organising the rally, marshalling it, but also like they were speaking, like the speakers were speaking at podiums built by the NSN or the former NSN.
And that's true across the country.
Yeah. And like,
one of them got arrested in Sydney for
hate
disgusting
speech.
racist...
Like actual hate speech, like just discussing like anti-Jewish, like anti-Semitism. Like,
and they were leading a lot of the chants and stuff across the country.
Yeah.
So like the Age did an expose and basically said nothing's changed. Like this NSN group's been outlawed, but they
still
exist,
there.
they're operating, they're doing the same thing they were before. And that's the thing, like it's very easy to change the name of an organisation, change the banner, change the sign, but you can't really defeat a political organisation
through a law.
Yeah. You've got to crush the politics and the broader social context in which they emerge.
It'd be interesting for one of those people who does the exposés and write-ups into this stuff to do a thing about the collaboration between One Nation and the NSN figures. Because I just feel like it must go so deep. The fact that they co-built this rally together. I wonder how much sort of on the ground support the fascists are giving Pauline Hanson.
Yeah, there was actually an interview, I think, with Warren Pickering, who was a Senate candidate for One Nation in Victoria. And the ABC journalist asked, like, are you a bit concerned that there's people of Nazi history at this rally, that you want to speak at this rally with these people? And he kind of hesitated for a moment, being like, oh, look, you know, I reject hate and I'm not really for that.
One Nation famously rejects hate.
Exactly. Then he just goes and speaks and doesn't have an issue because this is their rally. This is what they're trying to do, build this kind of right-wing politics, not only in Victoria, but right across the country as an alternative. Yeah.
And they need an activist base, right? And so these very committed Nazi thugs are like a kind of an active base of organisers, material distributors, propagandists, etc. They have all these Telegram channels.
Yeah.
So like if you're building a party on the far right, like, you know, drawing a line between you and them doesn't make any sense unless you have an alternative. And the thing about One Nation going way back is like they haven't had that base of volunteers in most places. So they're
really trying to build it up right now. They had they've had multiple like branch launches in Victoria. But anyways, they've had a launch for the branch in the Melbourne CBD, which is just terrible. So, I mean, it'd be interesting to be a fly on the wall in one of those things to see if bloody, what I was going to say Joel Selwood, but he's a Geelong player.
No, not Selwood.
He is a Christian though, so.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different types of questions, but including like our friend here, Jordy. But in terms of
Not a Christian.
but in terms of the Hanson stuff, like, yeah, like their party had doubled in membership as of like November or something when we last spoke about it. And they're actually benefiting the most from this recent, like the March for Australia and the other one that have been alternating rallies. Like, it's not, even though the Liberals have basically supported it, they're not benefiting from it because when, I think Cos Samaras pointed this out, like when people are being motivated and radicalized around immigration, they tend to radicalize. And the Liberal Party, you know, it's pretty far right, but like there's a clear radical alternative to them. And so it's actually Hanson that's picking that up. And how much that lasts to an election, who knows? But it's extremely concerning that in some polls, Hanson's outpolling the Liberal Party. I mean, the fucking Liberal Party. Hanson, you know,
Yeah, it's
like,
crazy.
what a world. If you'd said that 3 years ago.
Yeah. I think we talked about it on the pod last week, but the fact that this so mirrors what happened a couple of years ago in the UK in terms of the rise of reform is really worrying. But I think the fact that the far-right demonstrations across the country were quite small, apart from maybe Brisbane, where I think they had about 5,000 people.
No, I don't think Brisbane was very big either. I think they said 800.
No, Brisbane was bigger than Melbourne.
Yeah.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But I think it shows you the role that the media played in bolstering the numbers for the initial March for Australia demonstration that happened. Because remember, they basically just printed the leaflet.
Right.
Yeah, the plans and everything. Yeah.
And were like, oh, immigration's a problem. And this rally is also happening.
Yeah.
Like just pushing this thing. And I think that did contribute to the 10,000 people that came out in August or whenever it was. And the media didn't do like that as explicitly this time around. And I think that did damage their capacity to get out.
One of the things is like in the aftermath of the day, it's the first time in a while it's been such a politically contested day. Like it seems like for a few years, basically our narrative, like that it's invasion day, whatever. We didn't have a majority in the polls, but we sort of, the narrative of the day was mostly about that.
Yeah.
Whereas this year, and probably last year, I can't remember, but like definitely like this year was the first time where there was very clearly different narratives. Like there was the right narrative that no, we're proud of this. The polling
which
was
is
like
just terrible.
pushing in that direction.
Yeah.
The far right rallies pushing that direction. Hanson's speech in Brisbane got a lot of attention, like massively more than anything else that happened basically on the day. Yeah, I was just going to point out like so it's this. So how do we? So it's a contested. It's become a really contested day, and so in that sense, the mobilisations on our side are really important because we can't really control what the media runs with, but we can control what happens on the streets.
Yeah.
And I think if people haven't seen the polling, it shows you the impact of a right-wing political campaign and how that can transform political attitudes in Australia. So in 2023, only 47% of people preferred January 26 to be Australia Day. That has risen to 68%. And the support for another date has dropped from 39% to 16%. So there's been a hardening of support for January 26 to be a date of celebration of Australia. And I think you can directly contribute that to the fact that the right won the campaign around the voice.
It was a smashing victory for them, like to get a 60% vote no right across the country, and even toppling states like Victoria, which is seen as the progressive state.
That's right.
The vote no actually winning here marked a real significant change in the sense of, do we support Indigenous rights or not? Having 60% of the population reject that sets a terrible terrain of where Indigenous politics lies and the prospects of fighting for that, basically. And so, yeah, you can definitely see how that relates to these attitudes now getting a bit worse, and seeing age groups like 18 to 24-year-olds supporting Australia Day more than ever before, basically.
It puts lie to this idea that people have that society just progressively, it's like a slow march towards progress and justice. There's no linear development of political ideas. There's no linear improvement in people's attitudes, the growth of the left. Actually, politics is a battle. It's a to and fro, and who has taken the most previous step is the force that can actually win people behind them. And unfortunately, in Australia, the right have taken a huge step forward around quite specifically the question of Indigenous justice, and that's terrible.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people on the left didn't really, like the broad left I think did, but on the radical left, there was a sort of, we talked about it last week, the kind of left-wing no campaign, which was very small, but like people didn't know how to interpret that. And so some people claimed it was like a victory for that. When it was like, the stats showed that like Indigenous communities voted yes overwhelmingly, especially the remote ones. It was very much like the no vote was, do you think these are like a special privileged minority? Like, let's stop talking about them. Enough's enough. They shouldn't have special rights. Like that was the no campaign. And unfortunately that's what won. And the other side of that, so apart from the right being on the front foot, is Labor in the middle of the campaign realized we're not going well. Let's pull back. So you had one side very confidently arguing racism and the other side spending more effort disciplining people calling out the racists than actually fighting the racists themselves. So that's been the context. But, you know, we got to keep fighting and we need to build a principled left that stands up because Labor doesn't do it.
Yeah.
And the Greens only do it in the places where they exist, which are the places where it's least controversial, you know, like Brunswick and Northcote and stuff. Like we need a socialist movement that can go out into the working class movement and make the case for solidarity with the oppressed.
Yeah.
I just wanted to add something to that because I think that's really true. Like politics does extremely matter in terms of fighting for things like Indigenous rights and liberation. And I kind of just wanted to add a bit about the politics of the day and the rally itself.
Yeah.
I think it's useful to have a bit of a constructive conversation about this because I think it matters in terms of giving people political lead that's fighting for this sort of stuff. And I think I had a sort of problem with some of the speeches that were discussed at the rally, which effectively some of the speakers argued for a vote Labor sort of campaign to save the treaty. The way in which this was articulated was that we need to put the Liberals last to save the Victorian Treaty from being dumped out because the Liberals have campaigned that they would dump it if they were voted in. I don't think this is the correct message that we should be giving people in terms of, that political lead we need to give that should be radical, left-wing, fighting for Indigenous rights. What that message does is that we should just follow Labor. And I think that's wrong on multiple fronts because look at what the Labor Party has been doing on the whole range of issues. But even if you just look at Indigenous rights, the Allen Labor government have put in some of the most draconian prison laws, which will imprison Indigenous children with potential life sentencing. And so I think...
And the bail changes.
And the bail changes, which has seen increases of denial of bail to Indigenous adults and children right across the state of Victoria. So I think it really matters that, we have to talk about the politics of the rally as well. And actually, this rally, Invasion Day, should be very radical, militant, should be oppositional to Australia, and it should be oppositional to the Labor Party, who are no friends of Indigenous people whatsoever. So I just thought I'd bring that in because I think that's something worth noting about when we're talking about what kind of politics do we need in terms of fighting for Indigenous rights.
Yeah, it was quite interesting because like when Gary Foley got up and spoke, he denounced the Labor Party. He denounced Bob Hawke specifically for being kind of the person who made or Labor rather, the group who made Australia Day like a thing, like a celebration, and they
did the big bicentennial.
Exactly, like a massive, kind of enshrined it, I guess, in our culture. And he was like, that was fucked. Like, this is fucked. Like, the Labor Party did this. They're to blame for this nationalism, back then, right now, today. And then the speech immediately after that was kind of like, oh, but, we can't have the Liberals, which means Labor.
And that's the thing. Like, there's always this temptation in politics to accept the sort of lesser evil, and as the far right grows globally, you see that in America with Trump and people saying, oh, well, we hate Kamala Harris and we hate Biden, but we've got to vote for them to stop Trump. And you see it in Australia in the last election where there was a big pro-Labor push on the basis of Dutton's like a Trumpist or whatever. And it's going to probably increase as one nation gets stronger. But if we accept that, then we'll never build an alternative that actually stands up for Aboriginal people and all the other oppressed groups. So we just got to fight for an independent socialist position that stands against all the injustices, all the oppression, and pressures Labor to the left.
Narrow our horizons like they do.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there are a lot of really powerful speeches on the day. Geordie mentioned Gary Foley's, which highlighted the radical history of the movement. And then Auntie Vicky Roach's speech was just soul.
She's great.
I mean, yeah.
Beautiful.
just the way, like just the description of the way that Indigenous people are treated in this country. She's been a long-term campaigner against black deaths in custody. Celeste Little, I thought her speech was really good as well. So I think that it's, you know, Melbourne, the fact that it had the biggest demonstration, the handmade placards and signs that people bring indicate the sort of like just ordinary people participation that exists in the demonstration. And yeah, a bunch of really incredible speakers. But yeah, I think we really need to highlight the radical arguments that are made. And yeah, like Geordie said, not narrow people's horizons about what's possible. And I think we just can't have a situation where the movement for Indigenous rights is channeled into a vote Labor campaign, because they have proved for the entire history of their existence that they cannot be trusted on the question of Indigenous liberation and justice.
Exactly. I think this question has come up a lot of times, and I think the history and the speech that Gary made, it reminds me of times like, you know, that Paul Keating had this speech in Redfern that was talking about reconciliation and coming together and supporting Indigenous rights. Kevin Rudd did the same thing in 2007 with his sorry speech. While all this happens, Labor oversees the prison system, the police systems, helped to oversee the Northern Territory intervention when Howard got kicked out.
Right.
This is their record on Indigenous rights. And I think we need to have a politics that understands that, but also pushes back against Labor's attempts to say, we'll give you a handout, we'll lend a hand and support solidarity of Indigenous people, and you can trust us. We have to say that's wrong, basically,
totally.
and fight for an alternative that genuinely fights for Aboriginal rights.
And I mean, what happened in Western Australia proves the desperate need to build a strong, confident, massive movement for Indigenous rights, because there was literally a racist extremist who tried to murder Indigenous people at the demonstration in WA, in Perth, Bullaroo, where he threw an explosive device, a bomb with like shrapnel in it into the crowd. And it was just lucky he was bad at making bombs because it didn't explode. But imagine what could have happened. And then his identity is being protected
being suppressed,
so that he doesn't get like doxed or whatever.
You wouldn't want that. I mean, poor guy. He's obviously really mentally unwell. And
but it's like all of
lovely
these,
kid from
you
a
know,
lovely family.
Palestinian activists who have had their whole entire lives. Like the Herald Sun wrote an article about me and my family, like all of this detail about our lives and our history and all the rest of it. This guy tries to murder Indigenous people and they're like, oh, we have to protect his identity.
Yeah, the hypocrisy is so severe, I feel. And like, I remember I think Josh Lees, who's been recently on this podcast a few times, he posted sort of statements and a comparison of all these different events. And like, you know, a bomb gets thrown at an Invasion Day rally. You sort of hear crickets or just minor reporting, other sort of events against Palestinians and far left activists in Australia. But as soon as far left activists protest against the genocide, terrorists, you know, need to get off the streets. How dare you criticize all this? And it's like that just
psychosocial harm.
Yeah, literally.
As opposed to like a bomb.
Yeah, it's just like, it fucking angers me, basically. And it's like, yeah, this is literally a bomb that could have killed people. Like killed Aboriginal people out in WA, but also fellow left-wing activists who want to fight for Indigenous rights, want to fight for Palestine. And yet the hypocrisy is so severely awful in the reporting of all this.
And they're talking about it in the media as like they're investigating it as a potential terrorist incident. But like it didn't take very long after Bondi for them to declare it a terrorist incident, you know, and that's kind of fine. It clearly was.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like, why do they need to investigate? Like some white guy threw a bomb at a political demonstration about Indigenous rights. Like I think it's very clear what their intention was.
Absolutely.
It wasn't just some random like act. It was a deliberate act.
Yeah.
A political act.
Totally. And if you look at that, like if we do look at the comparisons, it was like, you know, a terrible terrorist event in Bondi, and the media immediately jumped to the conclusions, like drawing conclusions, like trying to place a blame on, you know, pro-Palestine
Muslims,
protesters and just racist tropes and everything. And then if we look at what happened here, with an actual link to an opposing ideology that was present on the day and like protesting this actual thing. Firstly, the media was completely silent on it, and only now kind of are they being forced to kind of report this.
And what about the, they want to, so the right-wing media make this argument the Palestine movement has directly contributed to this. Why don't they make the argument that the rise of Pauline Hanson and One Nation has directly contributed to this? The years they've spent campaigning against Indigenous rights, like Geordie said, like the fact that there was a fucking anti-Aboriginal demonstration that was happening in the same city at the same time. Well, how is this not contributed to the legitimisation of the fact that you can go about and try and fucking murder Aboriginal people and their supporters? Like,
totally. And like what they are reporting on is how good a job the police did on the day, which is also just objectively incorrect.
They panicked people and didn't tell them what was going on.
And like, so they also didn't stop the bomb being thrown. So.
Totally. Exactly. But also, so like the police were made aware, like a WA socialist member took a photo of the guy like after he like actually getting arrested and whatever. But like the police were made aware an hour before they actually did anything, and like then scared everyone and like corralled everyone and didn't tell them what was going on.
As in the bomb was thrown.
Yeah, and then an hour later, then the police.
They didn't even notice.
No, well, maybe they noticed. I don't know, but that's when the response happened.
Oh my goodness!
And then like you get, I don't know if it's Roger Cook still or whatever the fuck in WA being like, oh, the police did such a great job, blah 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 blah. It's like they didn't want to do anything.
So yeah, it's a really, really horrible event. And I think a lot of the stuff around Invasion Day, the polls that we discussed, the rise of One Nation, it all talks to the fact that there's a desperate need to build up the movement for Indigenous rights and try and reclaim some of the space that's been lost in terms of where people are at in their understanding of what life and reality is like for Indigenous people, the racist nature of the Australian state. And we also need to build that left-wing alternative because we need to push against the rise of parties like One Nation so that they can't capitalise on the way that people are feeling, defected by the system or whatever, and then that being pushed in a right-wing direction. One Nation are scapegoating Muslims, Indigenous people, etc., in order to fuel their own personal political careers, and they're making life more dangerous for Black and brown people, for left-wing people, etc. So the left-wing movement rising is really, really important.
Totally. And there was a cool story of like how an active and well-organized left can respond to this stuff. Like Hanson, this is Thursday, so Hanson is having a film screening and speaking in Melbourne tonight. And some of the trade unionists who work in the venue where she's doing the thing, they are leftists and activists, and they got their workmates together and complained to the manager and got the event cancelled. And then something happened. We don't know exactly what. Yeah. Some strings were pulled, some pressure was applied, and now the venue's put the event back on. Yeah. And so Hanson will be speaking. And by the time this goes out, it'll have played out. But that shows what a left can do. And this happened, this has got a historical precedent. when white apartheid, South African, sports teams and figures came to Australia, it was trade unionists in the hospitality sector and all that kind of stuff who put black bans on their visits and made sure no one served them and shut down hotels that tried to host them and stuff. So like an organized working class can take sort of direct action to fuck these people up and to stop their message being heard and to build and is an inherent antidote to their politics. So that's the kind of long-term goal, you know.
Riding out the party line.
Well, it was really great to have Oscar back on the pod. He's a very good guest. We want to have him on more often, so keep an eye out for that.
More Oscar, yeah.
But what we wanted to talk about now was the amazing movement that's taking place in the state of Minnesota.
And the city of Minneapolis.
That's right. Omar and I
other cities.
Omar was like, it's just Minneapolis. I'm like, you're wrong. That's happening all across the state and all across the country. There's been massive protests against the brutal ICE operation that's been taking place across Minnesota that has resulted in the kidnapping of migrants, the killing.
Including that 5-year-old kid.
Oh, God, it was just
disgusting.
Awful. And he's been taken to a detention facility, I think, in Texas. Like, how far away can you get from Minnesota's like the top of America. Texas is the bottom.
Well, they literally held him outside the family door and was like,
do you want to come get your son? Yeah, to try and get the rest of his family.
Using a child as bait.
It's actually the mentality of these people.
Yeah.
And then, obviously it's led to the killing as well of Alex Preddy, a nurse, and Renee Good, who was doing legal observing and was shot point blank by ICE agents. And this brutal campaign of terror has led to one of the most incredible urban uprisings in recent history in the United States. And I wanted to start out with a bit of a long quote, but I just think it's really beautiful and gives you a sense of what's going on in Minneapolis, from Hamilton Nolan, who has a Substack blog called How Things Work. And this article was titled Intolerable Things. And he says, "It's important to understand that all of the people in the streets building barricades and shouting for ICE to get out of their city are not members of some pre-existing underground guerrilla army sect. They're just regular people. This is what normal day-to-day life in Minneapolis entails now, for anyone with enough integrity to be bothered by city police kidnapping their neighbours. All of the people who have spent countless hours in the past weeks tailing ICE agents on their rounds and filming them and blowing whistles, regular people. All of the people strapping on their respirator masks and grabbing the leaf blower and hitting the streets to dodge tear gas grenades, regular people. Alex Preddy and Renee Good, shot and killed by federal agents, regular people. Regular, decent people faced with intolerable things." And I think that really sums up what's going on in Minnesota and Minneapolis right now.
Yeah, totally. I mean, we heard from Brian Bean about Chicago a few months ago now, and he gave you a sort of feeling of that kind of organizing, but it really seems like Minneapolis is just something qualitatively different.
Yeah.
Totally.
And I don't know if it's just because it's like the fourth one or something now, or if it's because the BLM movement that started there has sort of left the residue of organizing and stuff. But it seems quite like it's a genuine mass movement.
Yeah.
It's a genuine mass uprising.
Yeah.
And there's all different ways that people help, but it's really caused a crisis for the government.
Totally.
And like and it shows sort of the power of resistance, but like just the bravery involved, because as soon as one of them gets shot, and I think, by the way, there's actually nine people killed
That's
by
right.
ICE, but only 2 of them are white, and they get the headlines, and that's not to downplay the bravery of those 2, but so there's been 9 people killed.
And then countless others just like shot
Kidnapped, shot,
blinded.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So it's like, this is a serious kind of war zone that you're entering when you go to these protests and whatever. And the fact that thousands of people are prepared to do it, wine mums and others, tells you like the depth of feeling.
Yeah.
And it's fucking inspiring, because most of the time we don't come up against that kind of threat. But,
Yeah.
and you kind of wonder, like, what would I do in that moment?
Yeah.
But like tens of thousands of people are stepping up.
Before we get to the scale of resistance, I wanted to start with, well, not start, we've already started, but point to 2 examples of the barbarism of these ICE raids that are taking place, not just in Minneapolis, but around the country. The first one's from Texas. So a man was kidnapped by ICE, and his name was Mahir Tarabashi, and he was taken by... He was taken by ICE agents in Texas. He's been living in America since 1994, and he has a son who suffers from a chronic muscular condition. And his father took care of him. He needed constant round-the-care support. And because his father was taken by ICE, he died. And it's just like...
He's just like in his home.
Well, presumably he was getting some, but it's just like you had this person looking after you your whole life. Like it's trauma compounding on the chronic disease. And it's like, it's just so horrible. And then the second one is a letter that a young child wrote to one of their friends, thinking that they're going to get taken by ICE. And it's a handwritten note on a lined piece of paper, written in pencil lead. "If ICE takes me, don't forget about me. I will be in El Salvador. You're my best friend, the brother I never had. I cry every night thinking that they will come for me at school." And it's just like, these like small children who have to face the possibility that they're going to be ripped from their friends and their family by these ICE goons. And so the fact that there's been this resistance to this, I think, is just the most beautiful thing. Yeah. So like the movement in Minneapolis is like, the scale of it, like Omar was saying, is incredible. So I read one article that said 60,000 people have participated in like what's the word? Like non-violent
Civil disobedience.
Training.
Training, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So like 60,000 people have done the training. And then
Wow.
this article was like, so there's 60,000 people who have done the formal training. For basically every single one of them, there's like 5-10 other people who have done some other form. Like, so you just think the whole state is just like every day doing something about this.
Yeah, it's like there was an article that you sent in the chat that was like really quite powerful. Just like it was just a journalist, I guess, that like tailed some of these people and going about their day, which has now changed quite significantly. But it just painted the picture of like everyone is doing something pretty much, and you can do something quite substantial, or you can do something as little as just carry a whistle around with you. But everyone in the street is doing something and is opposing this, and it's not like it's you won't really find people just going around their day as usual.
I saw like some people who have jobs are like doing this stuff.
Yeah.
And then some people are like working their jobs for them.
Yeah, people are
so they can
doing
keep
other people's
that. And then
totally.
people are then like doing stuff for the people helping the other people.
And like doing their laundry and stuff like
so
that.
it's like a lot of kind of grassroots solidarity and connection, which is really just wonderful to see. It's a real antidote to what's going on from the top of society.
Yeah. And there's this article from New Republic. One of the volunteers or activists was being interviewed and talking about how there's all of these violent attacks against people. So obviously there's the shooting of Alex Preddy and Renee Good, but also just like Geordie said, like people getting tear gas, pepper sprayed, someone had their hand shot out.
Totally, yeah.
And this person, Chris, who was interviewed, the instances of physical violence only goose the number of people willing to be targets. Every time they attack us, another round of volunteers come in. We refuse to be cowed. It's like,
it's really beautiful.
And all these musicians are getting on board.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Billy Bragg wrote a song for them. Ice-T wrote a song.
Well, he already wrote a song.
Yeah, that was an old
Cop
song.
Killer was an old song, and he changed it to Ice Killer.
Ice Killer, yeah, okay. And then who's the other
The
one?
Boss.
Everlast. Everlast wrote a song for them. Who's a shit musician.
I don't know who Everlast is.
It's a good. It's just a political solidarity. And what's the most recent one?
The Boss. Bruce Springsteen wrote one, and it's like kind of cringe, but it's so nice that he wrote it. But my favorite act of musical resistance is this. So there's been one of the focuses of the protests has been Target. Because they're a big employer they're the biggest employer in Minnesota. And they have collaborated with ICE raids. And so people have been...
How? Like, what do they do?
They let ICE come in and
like
onto the
hide
property
there.
and to take the workers.
Fuck's sake.
So people have been protesting at the Target shops and the Target Center, which is the big basketball what do they call it? Basketball arena where the Minnesota Timberwolves play. Anyways, so this is brass solidarity. So that is people filing into the Target Center for the big like rally that happened after the general strike Ice Out day, and they're playing the beautiful Sam Cooke song "A Change Is Gonna Come" and like occupying the Target Center. It's just like, beautiful.
I think also like just a context to the like Minnesota specifically stuff. So like obviously ICE has been doing their shit like for quite a while, but in there was a like before kind of all of this started specifically targeting Minnesota, there was a citizen journalist, like a Drew Pavlo type kind of thing, who did he did a story, and he was awarded for Citizen Journalist of the Year at Mar-a-Lago. He did a story which is just like objectively false and has been proven false, but he was like, in Minnesota there are all of these Somali daycares that aren't actual daycares, and they're just taking government money. And then that's kind of the thing that started the specific, like the sending 2,000 ICE agents into Minnesota and stuff like that. Just a racist lie. but then also obviously you've got the history of like, George Floyd was murdered there. That, like people, Minnesotans are angry, I guess, at the government just coming in and murdering Minnesotans.
Well, Trump made the Somali community in Minnesota a big focus of like a racist attack on them as part of the election campaign, saying that like Somali people are eating dogs.
Oh, that was in Minnesota. Oh,
so like the Somali
Springfield.
Is that
That's
the town? Yeah. And so the Somali community in Minnesota have been facing flack for ages. I was reading about why there's a big Somali community in Minnesota, and apparently it's because a lot of the church groups there were part of like supporting refugees come to America. And then the church groups in Minnesota have played a really big role in the civil disobedience and resistance.
There was that minister that was shot at.
Oh, I didn't see them being shot at.
Yeah, it was like it was like part of a regular protest outside ICE, and then like one of the ICE agents on the roof like shot him in the head.
Out.
Yeah, he didn't die. I think it was a less lethal round or whatever.
There was also a really good statement by the minister for the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Yeah.
Like the actual priest for the basketball
They
team.
have a priest?
It's fucking America.
Jesus Christ.
But he was like denouncing all the kind of fake, well not fake, I mean they're real, but like the right-wing Christians. Like you say you're standing up for peace and harmony, but there's no peace when people are being kidnapped and stuff. It was a good statement.
So there's been a really big like scale of protest. I want to talk about the neighborhood organizing in a second, but just, some of the more context for what's been going on. The big Ice Out Day that happened on Friday last week. Yep.
That's the one that I think everyone refers to as the general strike.
Yeah. And I mean, there was huge amount of union participation in it, actually. Like, the word general strike can mean something sort of specific in socialist and trade unionist lexicon or whatever. But it was like a general day of protest. There were all of these, there was an activist handbook or like guide that people had, and they took it to all the businesses and pressured the business, like how do you convince a business to close down?
Yeah.
And there was a guy who was interviewed in, I can't remember what he was interviewed in, but he was saying like he didn't really want to, he supports the protest, but he didn't really want to shut shop because economic reasons, whatever. But every day people came in to be like, you have to shut, you have to shut, you have to shut. And eventually they convinced him to shut his doors on the day. But there was also involvement of a whole bunch of union local groups, including the teachers. And I wanted to play a clip of one of the teachers who participated in the protest.
I had a student who joined online during class, and in the middle of my lesson, I teach English. The student messaged me and said, ICE is outside of my house right now. What do I do? And I stopped class right away. All the students heard what happened. And, thank God his neighbors were out there outside of his house, and they chased ICE out of their neighborhood. Those agents had been circling his house all morning. And, I think it's really telling of our community, of our neighborhoods, how we've organized, and how we are out there defending one another, including my student who, thank God, he's safe. The fear is so tangible. The fear is so tangible. This is our last option. We need to shut it all down. And so I am calling on every educator in this state, in this country, just shut it down with Minneapolis, with St. Paul. You need to shut it all down with us, because if we do not shut it down right now, your city is next. And
That's awesome.
That's amazing.
So you have these teachers who have to emotionally and physically defend their students from these ICE agents. And so I think like the involvement of workers, I think, is really, really significant in this moment.
Yeah, because actually the first people to act were high schoolers. They were doing like all these walkouts and protests, and when your student body, the people you're teaching, are politically engaged, like it's unavoidable, right? They're all talking about it. The teachers talk about it. Teachers unions in America also have a political history, a bit like a lot of teachers unions around the world. Like they've, in the last sort of 20 or 30 years, they've been neoliberalized. Pressure's grown, the working force has become lower paid relatively, more youthful and sort of radical. And there was a wave of teacher strikes a few years ago. And so that kind of joining of teachers with students and the broader community has like been growing in America, especially in Chicago, but it's spreading. So like as a side of struggle, schools are very powerful, right? Because when kids can't go to school, well, what do their parents do? You know, they have to look after them or find some, you know, so it's very disruptive. So even though it's not like this economically central institution, it's like a very politically central, because when schools are shut down, everyone knows about it. You know, the whole society changes. And so that power of students, like as a radical edge to then inspire teachers, and then it kind of spread from there. Like on the day itself, like hotels were shutting down, the airport was like most of the workers of the airport, like were calling in sick or shutting things down. There was like a lot of telecommunications workers, all the employees of the council and the state public service. There was huge
And
walkouts.
it's just worth saying like 50,000 plus people marched in minus 28 degrees Celsius weather. Like what?
It's insane.
What even is that temperature?
It's unfathomable.
Like no.
So then the background to the 50,000 people coming out onto the streets is this local neighborhood organizing that took place. So in the accounts from the people who were part of these local neighborhood groups, they say that originally they started because of the George Floyd and Black Lives Matter
so they did
protest.
From then.
So they set up all of these signal chats, and the way it works is there's a signal chat for every block, and then there's a broader neighborhood-wide signal chat that feeds into, and then there's like a broader sort of, so it's like these layers of communication. And then so people say they've been tracking ICE number plates. ICE have now been putting liberal stickers on their cars to try and one of the stickers that they had on the car was just
the
queer.
word queer.
So, okay, you find out that there's ICE in your neighborhood. You send a message to your neighborhood chat. Everybody in the neighborhood comes out onto the streets. They blow whistles. They film the ICE agents. And then someone is in a car to track the ICE agents when they leave, so they know when to go next. And all of this, it doesn't obviously stop the kidnappings in their entirety, but what it does is it makes it harder for ICE to get their job, like to do what they're trying to do, because they have to try and like get out of sight so that they can go into the next neighborhood without the families being alerted. So it's just this groundswell of participation. And there was an Egyptian writer talking about who lives in Minnesota, talking about how it reminds them of the Egyptian Revolution and Tahrir Square and the way that people organize themselves in neighborhood committees in that moment.
I think it's been sowing, like my TikTok feed is just like full of people in Minnesota and just what they're doing. But like also in like with those signal chat things, like one of the examples of one of those signal chats is like there's this massive, you know, open voice chat, and all people do is like a bunch of people are sitting there with like a list of confirmed ICE agent number plates, and all it is like people, you know, you join the voice chat and you just read out a number plate, like a number plate that you've seen just passing by, and then the other people on the line will say whether or not that is a confirmed ICE number plate. And it's like it's just one tiny element of all of this, like these tens of thousands of people just doing stuff. And it's just like, it's really beautiful. And like people, like I've seen the cards that they go and hand out to, you know, people working at hotels to find out like, you know,
use ICE here or whatever.
Yeah. It's like, this is what you do, blah, 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 blah. It's just truly incredible and astounding.
Totally. I think the strike day though is probably like the crescendo of the whole thing. And it's really the strike day which got shifted things actually, because the Chamber of Commerce of Minneapolis or Minnesota, whatever the fuck level, 60 big corporations, including Target, came out and said the ICE stuff needs to stop. Things need to change. The economy is being disrupted. Society is being disrupted. It can't go on like this. And that pressure came from their workers. Obviously, these companies didn't come out and say, like, we stand with immigrants. But the strike affected them economically. They're under pressure. Society's breaking down. The protests are causing a crisis. The bourgeoisie doesn't like that. So the capitalists start complaining to the government, like, please, something needs to change. And what do you know, things change because the power of workers to disrupt the economy, to fuck things up, like it's like street protests are great and they raise the political cost of the kidnappings and they can delay them sometimes or stop them altogether. But like the economic strike and the social strike kind of aspect is just at a whole different level.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's why people all around the world in these disruptions, including in the Egyptian revolution, people are starting to, there's sort of a vibe out there that like a strike is important.
Yeah.
Most of the time it can't quite be manifested. There's a lot more tiles on social media calling for general strikes than there are. But I think occasionally it kind of clicks and you see the impact that can have.
Yeah. And it's so important that lesson is starting to be revived as a popular idea, because it's what will need to happen in order to push back the Trump regime. And I think that
everything else.
Yeah.
Just everything
else. And I think that it is it's really essential that we see what's happened with with Minnesota as a win that has been won by people taking strike action and political action.
You mean the Bovino thing?
Exactly, because Bovino, who we made fun of last week,
he's looking like a fucking Nazi,
fascist hobbit Nazi,
and being chased around by people in Target and all the rest of it. He has been forced to resign from his position. Trump got scared because these people just keep, like, what Bovino has done is create, and Trump obviously, like, there's a whole layer of people, but the people of Minnesota have made this a situation that can't last because it's destroying the credibility of the Trump regime. Like you said, it's like impacting the economy in Minneapolis and Minnesota.
Yeah, the ruling class is upset now.
And that's happened because people have acted.
That's right.
Like this whole scenario wouldn't, like they could just kill people and get away with it if people didn't respond through.
Totally, yeah, the way that they have.
Yeah. I think we should talk a little bit.
And hasn't Nome as well been sacked or something?
No, I don't think so.
I thought she was being replaced or something.
Maybe.
No idea.
Anyway.
I think we should talk a bit about why Trump's doing this, because I guess on the surface it can seem a little bit crazy because of what's happened, like the plummeting in the polls, the fact that over 50% of the population in America think that ICE should be less funded and shouldn't be able to operate in the way that it is. This can seem like it's an own goal for Trump, and in some ways it is, like we said, because of the protests. But I think there is a political logic to the ICE raids and the ramping up in authoritarianism.
Yeah, I mean, like we talked about before, that Trump's sort of extremely unpopular. The issue for capitalism generally is that it's not offering us anything. Like for decades now, we've just been sold cuts, austerity cuts, privatization cuts. And so governments, every time a government gets in, there's like a brief moment where someone hopes maybe something will improve. And then the realization quickly sets in, oh no, nothing's improving. And I think Trump's facing that with the economy. The economy is quite slow. I read a report the other day, like AI is responsible for like 92% of GDP growth, i.e. the whole American economy is like stagnant
like
or shrinking. But then building these data centers is like responsible for the entirety of any kind of growth. So even, it's not like some terminal economic catastrophe, but it's crap. People are not, and the housing prices are high and so on. So they can't offer anything on that. They're not improving public health care, housing, affordability. So then they have to turn to repression.
Yeah.
And that's especially true for the far right, who want to do something quite dramatic. They don't want to just manage the system. They want to kind of make America or whatever country the far right's operating more like China, like total authoritarianism, capitalist paradise, but a repressive apparatus where you're not allowed to protest. You can't do anything except go to work and then go home and buy stuff. That's their vision of the future. And so, Trump is like the thin edge of the wedge, and ICE, first they came for the migrants and I didn't speak up for them kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that's sort of what we're seeing. It's this growing authoritarianism in the West, all around the West.
Yeah.
And America especially.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's right. And I think it's important to say that what they're trying to do is not get rid of every single migrant in America, because the migrant and illegal as our book says, no one is illegal. Actually, does it say that? That's
Yeah, it
what I
does.
got. Yes, no one is illegal. But they don't want to get rid of them all because that would mean that the American economy would collapse. But this can actually create an even more precarious situation for migrants, can make it even harder for people to speak out about ill treatment, low wages, being worked to death, etc.
And can make migrants easier to exploit.
Exactly. So it's really important that the kind of closed borders approach of the capitalist class is not about actually closing borders. It's about making it, more precarious so that you can take more out of the people who are coming into the country. And then I think the fear that is created, it can permeate through more of society than just the migrant community. As we've seen, the killing of Renee Good and Alex Preddy, it says that this is what society could look like and people should be fearful of that, which can obviously, in this case, it's led to resistance and opposition. But in other cases, and the hope from the ruling class can be that this means people sit down, shut up and deal with it.
As is the case often.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like look at Iran, they just had a mass sort of semi-insurrectionary protest movement. And what did they do? They just killed thousands of people.
Yeah.
Okay, ICE can't do that yet, but like they're massively expanding ICE, and that's been all signed off by the Democrats.
Totally, yeah.
So ICE has a budget that's like basically the same as the Australian Army, and they don't fly overseas, so they don't need to spend money on big planes and stuff. Like they just spend it on people, guns, tear gas, prisons. So they're it's like people talk about it as a Gestapo, and I think that is sort of an offhand kind of reference, but I think it's also actually true. Like they're building a police force, a political police force, like a fascist political police force. And, like we talked about, they're filtering people ideologically. And through this, like anyone who does this and survives in ICE is clearly going to be harder and more committed to far-right politics than they were before. So every time they do this, they're kind of filtering out the more moderate
they're
people
self-selecting,
and resulting in a more fascist kind of network.
Yeah. Is it fascist? What we call it? Is this fascism?
I think that in terms of comparing it to, like, say, classical fascism, Hitler and whatever, there's obviously some things that are comparable, actually. But it's sort of not the most useful comparison because I think that capitalism is a dynamic system. So it means that it's not the case that historical situations repeat themselves in exactly the same form. And I think that, but what I think is true is that this is extreme authoritarianism that's impacting whole facets of people's lives. So school, work, going to the shops, wherever you go, you can be picked up by, these people. What happened to Mahmoud Khalil and other pro-Palestine student activists was a precursor of a whole bunch of this stuff, and then also a warning and a message to people, if you are oppositional and dissident to the government, we will deal with you.
And did you see the court recently quashed his appeal?
That's right.
Yeah.
And then I think also, again earlier, but the stripping of labour rights, like union rights to federal workers, the cutting of funding to universities that were teaching a curriculum that was against the ideological worldview of the Trump regime. This is not nothing. And I think this is the direction that whole sections of the ruling class internationally want to take society, because it's connected with a broader project and a broader thing happening in society. We need to understand domestic and then international and global politics. There's going to be some form of imperial confrontation between the major powers in our society. And so they need to put more money into military, which means less money into working class communities. That leads to dissatisfaction and disruption in people's lives, which can lead to anger and can lead to resistance. So you need to be able to say, this is not allowed. You are not allowed to do this. So is this fascism? But it's fucking authoritarian.
It's in a direction.
Yeah.
Totally, yeah.
Because in the old days,
fascistic.
like in the Vietnam War era, they used to talk about guns and butter. So, you spend a lot of money on the military, you're killing all these people in Vietnam, but the American state and economy was dominant globally. So they were super wealthy and they could afford, at the same time as they were spending hundreds of millions of dollars, you know, in Vietnam, killing people in Laos and Cambodia, they could also afford to do all these civil rights reforms, to expand the Great Society and all the other ones, you know, all these programs improving living standards. So living standards in America were rising through the Vietnam War. Well, America's not in that situation anymore. It's not competing with a decrepit Stalinist monstrosity in the USSR. It's competing with a kind of a Stalinist monstrosity in the form of China, which is better at capitalism right now than America is. And the reason it's better is it's a very low wage economy. You have no rights to unionize. You can't protest. You can't speak out against the government. And so the West is like, yeah, we want that.
Sounds pretty good. Yeah.
Pretty good, you know? And so they can't just flick their switch and undo, you know, centuries of the democratic rights that workers and others have fought for, but they want to chip away, and that's the direction of heading, you know? Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, like, when you mentioned before, like, this imperialist confrontation, like, it's kind of here. If we said that, like, 10 years ago, people would have, like, been like, oh, you're being a bit alarmist or whatever. But, like, people, like, ordinary people in our workplaces are talking about conscription and how they're going to avoid conscription. Like that is an actual conversation that is
Well,
happening.
I mean, across a lot of Europe, they're reintroducing national service or
Absolutely.
making it harder to get out of national service if it already exists. This stuff isn't a joke. Trump has been very clear with European countries that he thinks that they should be heading in the same direction as America is. So, you know,
and look at our hate speech laws.
Exactly.
You know?
Or like what's
not
happening.
criticize the government or
What's happening in the UK, like Keir Starmer has directly intervened to stop someone being able to challenge him for the leadership.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, also Trump was like, if you do not increase your GDP spending on the military, I will put tariffs on you.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
It's just there.
So there's a real drive happening here, and so this makes the Minneapolis stuff even more important because it's teaching a lesson to people, which is vital, which is when you come together, you organize, when you protest, when you strike, when you resist, you can push back. Because in the early stages of the Trump presidency, the second one round, I think people were totally demoralized.
Totally, yeah.
I think the Democrats played a huge role in meaning that people weren't ready to fight back when he got elected because they gave, obviously no fucking political lead. Then there was some actual pushback. So the No Kings protest.
Yep.
There was also the Chicago and Los Angeles movement against ICE when they were doing similar raids there. But Minnesota, they've taken it to an absolute new level, and all of these little tricks and ways to organize and bring your community in, they're not keeping them secret. They're actually disseminating that to people across the country. And so I've heard people say, like, well, does it really matter because ICE hasn't been abolished yet? We haven't really gotten rid of it. But Minnesota they've won something. Obviously, ICE hasn't gone completely, but these lessons can be learned. And that's vital. And
the left has to celebrate small wins when we get them, right? Like, we don't often abolish capitalism. In fact, it's happened like once, but temporarily. But it's like, we pushed something back. Like Trump had to sack one of his leading figures. And I think this leads to it. And so we should celebrate that while also, and a lot of American commentators have said this is a very dangerous moment because he's sending in now like a Obama-era technocrat who will do the job just as
much
efficiently,
better,
probably without the fanfare, no like Nazi.
No Hugo Boss fucking jacket.
The big trench coat. So there's a risk that everyone accepts now that things are improving, and the Minnesota governor Tim Walz, who was Kamala Harris's running mate, right? So
he's had a wonderful call with Trump.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So he's playing a very clever role in this, in that he's positioning himself as part of the resistance, much more so than Mamdani did. But at the same time, on the ground, the cops are working with ICE in a bunch of different ways. Yeah. And he's constantly emphasizing how they're going to keep collaborating. Yeah. So that's one of the real traps here, that this energy and enthusiasm and momentum is shaped into a kind of partisan thing of like Democrat versus Republican. And like the key thing is the midterms. Yeah. And like I saw a headline in the New York Times, which was like, the Democrats are fighting in Congress, and their demand is that ICE agents can't wear masks.
Yeah, and this was something that was celebrated basically by the so-called socialists, but like so there's a writer, Eric Blunk, who is a supporter of the DSA and writes for Jacobin, and he wrote a Facebook post, whatever, saying that abolish ICE is too radical a demand, and this isn't taking the movement in a good place, and then had the thing about demanding that the ICE agents shouldn't wear masks.
Yeah, so he's getting his like advice from Hakeem Jeffries and
Exactly. Yeah. So this is the trap that American political like street mobilisations, uprisings, whatever, that they often fall into, which is that the only national quote unquote opposition force that exists is the Democrats, who share 98% agreement
exactly
with the Trump regime.
Increased their funding last time, like just voted to do the same thing as well, like 7 of them crossed the floor to be like, actually, we want some more of this. Like, lost cause.
And this happened, like there was a national day of strike, a political strike in 2006 called A Day Without Immigrants.
That's right,
which was a massive event, like hundreds of thousands of people on the streets, in single cities in some cases, like huge thing. And that was basically against George Bush, who at the time was talking about doing like a very mild version of what Trump's sort of talking about now, deportations and what Obama did eventually. But then the movement, which started off saying like, no one is illegal, we don't want to be deported, we're actually a core part of a society and we should have rights, ended up getting sucked into Obama's campaign, and which ended up passing legislation which basically meant the only people protected were like the kids of immigrants. They were called dreamers. And so like those people had some specific carve-outs and some access to like path to citizenship, but all the ones, the vast majority of people who are illegal technically had no vision. So this is a historic trap of it's not a nothing. Like very impressive movements can be sidetracked, and that hasn't happened yet. So we haven't been defeated here, but that's a risk, and that's why you need socialist organization, because all these people on the streets are doing this incredible stuff.
Totally.
Then the question is, okay, what next? We can't just do this forever.
Yeah.
Inevitably, the movement there'll be some, even if ICE just moves on at some point. Like, so then what do you do next? And what's the political solution? And then the obvious one is to vote against Trump in the midterms. Like that's going to be so dominant.
So strong.
And so what's an alternative message?
Because imagine if those neighborhood communities, it's like in all of them, there were people arguing for an anti-capitalist, independent working class sort of perspective. I presume that a lot of the people in those chats would not just want to rely on the Democrats or fold into them and are looking for something different. But it's the tragedy of American politics that there's no one there to give that political perspective, that political lead, and to organize people in something more than just activist networks, because activist networks are very, very important, obviously.
Totally, yeah.
Activist networks, though, can decline.
They rise and they fall,
Whereas if you have political organisation that has a worldview, has a strategy, looks to the working class as an agent of change, that actually can last when political movements recede.
Yeah.
And that needs to be built up so that the next time that there's an uprising in a city like this, it is built on the foundations of working class radical socialist politics.
Totally. And you can see that even just with like, if you compare like unions, say, to BLM, right? Unions in America are pretty weak by global standards, but like, and BLM was incredible in scale, the biggest protest movement in history. But like a year after BLM, the BLM networks were a shell of what they once were, whereas trade unions last, right? Because they're organizations, they're membership based, they require some commitment, they have ongoing meetings, they have a general worldview and struggle and so on. So that's like, so unions are a step, but then unions can be politically very differentiated. Like there's some people who support all different things. So, you need a political party and to clarify for the radical left, to clarify and then fight for its ideas in the broader movement. And we need that here in Australia, like the same dynamics. Like, would you guys rule out a Liberal Party, Nationals, One Nation coalition being the next government of Australia? Like after this one, I wouldn't. I mean, the Liberals are going to struggle to get the Teal seats back, so they're going to need to find seats elsewhere, or maybe they include the Teals as well. Like, But like one nation is like a fact of life now in Australian politics. So and who knows where that could end.
Yeah.
Exactly. The deputy prime minister, the former deputy prime minister is a member.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that we just have to take so much inspiration from the people in Minnesota. I think every single one of them who went out into, like below
-28.
freezing, just a little while north of Minnesota or Minneapolis, trees were literally exploding because they were so cold.
That's just sap was expanding.
Yeah.
We're not meant to be outside like that.
Like all of
Why
the...
are there cities and places like that?
Oh, I don't know.
Who
But like
knows?
all of the photos of these people, it's like their beards. Like if you guys went out, your beards would have ice on them. Your glasses would be, you wouldn't be able to see out of them. One guy was said he had 11 hand warmers in all parts of his like clothes, but that still wasn't enough. And they just come out, they keep coming out, and we need to be like them.
Yeah, it's inspiring. We should look to them. Absolutely.
Yeah. So if people haven't seen some of the footage, go look at it, read some of the first-hand accounts. You will cry, but hopefully it inspires you to get involved in the struggle for a better world where things like this just can't happen.
And it's ongoing, right? Like Edward Norton's just called for a national demonstration.
Well, the Somali Student Union in Minnesota have called for another like general strike day, but they've called on other cities or across the country to participate in it, I think for the 31st.
And there have been like high school walkouts in other places.
That's right.
So the thing's really ongoing, and it gives us a lot of hope.
Mm-hmm.
Riding out the party line.
Well, thanks so much for listening to The Party Line. If this is your first time listening to it, welcome to the pod. We got told that saying pod is a
boomer.
As a boomer.
Yeah.
But
Thanks
you,
for
Because we're not boomers.
I'm not actually a boomer. I'm a millennial, I think. Are we millennial?
Yeah, but I don't think it's a technical term. I think boomer just means old person. And then
One day, Gen Z, you too will be boomers. And then you will realize how ridiculous
right.
the terminology is.
And you'll be overtaken by alpha.
Sure. Yeah. We should just stop.
Okay.
Stop coming up with
Sorry.
it.
Thanks. No. Omar, that's just horrible.
My kids do it at school, look at it.
Okay. So anyways, we promise nothing like that will ever happen again if you keep on listening to the podcast.
I was like, no, we'll probably still call it a pod.
Oh, yeah. We'll still call it the pod. But yeah, share the episode. Make sure
and
you
subscribe.
like and subscribe on YouTube.
We love you, YouTube.
Like and subscribe. And peace out.
Yeah, come along to the protest.
And always follow
The party line. Ice killer. Ice killer.
No, we'll get demonetized. All right, thanks for listening. Love you all.
Bye.
Bye.